Walked away from my wife and her lies. Years later, the son I thought was mine found me, begging for help. I gave him a file with the truth. As he read it, he looked up with tears in his eyes and asked, "Did she ever love either of us?" I'm 52 now. This story starts almost 25 years ago in Michigan. I met my ex-wife, Sarah, at the University of Michigan. She was an English major. I was studying mechanical engineering. We were both 20 at the time. It started off like most college relationships. Coffee, study dates, late-night walks. She was funny, smart, and had this weird thing about always organizing books by color. I thought she was perfect. We moved fast. Within a year, we were living together off campus. By the time we graduated, we were engaged. We got married in a small church in Traverse City. Both our families were there. My parents loved her. I thought I had won the damn lottery. I landed a job at an automotive parts company in Grand Rapids. She got a position teaching English at a public high school nearby. Life felt like it was going according to plan. A couple years later, we had our son, Ethan. I cried the first time I held him. That kid had my hair, my ears, even my crooked second toe. I never even questioned it. We bought a house in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, decent yard, old maple trees lining the street. I worked long hours, but I always came home for dinner. I coached Ethan's little league team, took him fishing, helped him build model rockets. Sarah kept everything organized. PTA meetings, birthday parties, spelling bee sign-ups, she was on top of it all. We fought sometimes, sure. Mostly about money or time or dumb stuff like forgetting to take out the trash. Nothing major. At least, I thought it was nothing major. Around the time Ethan turned 11, things changed. Sarah started acting different. Cold. Distant. She'd go to bed early. She started dressing up more. She had always been casual. Jeans, t-shirts, hoodies, but suddenly she was putting on makeup and perfume even just to go to the grocery store. At first, I figured she was just trying to feel better about herself. She turned 40 that year. I thought maybe she was going through something. I didn't push. I tried to be supportive. I worked overtime to save up for a vacation. I even bought her a necklace for our anniversary, one I couldn't really afford. Then I noticed she was texting a lot, always smiling when she looked at her phone. But when I walked into the room, the smile would disappear and she'd flip the screen down. Still, I didn't want to believe the worst. I thought maybe it was a girlfriend venting or something harmless. I didn't want to be that jealous husband. One night, she told me she was going out for dinner with some old co-workers from her school. I told her to have fun. After she left, I couldn't shake this awful gut feeling. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was the way she hesitated when I asked who was going. I checked her laptop. We shared it for bills and stuff. She had left her Gmail open. There were emails. Dozens of them. Not to a girlfriend. To a man named Mark. He was another teacher, married with kids. The messages weren't just friendly. They were full of love notes, plans, memories of hotel rooms. Things I never imagined hearing from her. I sat in that chair reading every word like a robot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, numb. After a while, I clicked on her journal file. She had saved it as a Word doc. That's when everything inside me broke. She had written about the affair in detail. How it started. How she felt alive with him. How her marriage bored her. How she wished Ethan was his. That line almost made me throw up. She had written it twice. When she came home, I was still sitting in the dark. She walked in humming and stopped dead when she saw me at the computer. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just turned the screen toward her and said, "Is it true?" She looked at the screen. Then she looked at me. And then, like a balloon deflating, she just sat on the couch and started crying. She didn't deny it. She didn't beg. She said she never meant to hurt me, that it had just happened, that she still loved me in a way. In a way. What the hell does that even mean? I asked her how long it had been going on. She said almost 4 years. 4 years. While I was working extra hours to pay for Ethan's braces, while I was planning anniversary dinners, while I was teaching our son how to ride a bike, she was sneaking off to hotels with Mark. She told me they always use protection, that Ethan was definitely mine. But after what I read in her journal, I didn't believe a word she said. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag. I wrote Ethan a note. Nothing detailed, just that I loved him and I'd be back to talk when he was ready. Then I walked out. I drove to a hotel in Kalamazoo and sat in the parking lot for almost an hour before going in. The next day, I hired a lawyer. We divorced 6 months later. I gave her the house because I couldn't stand being in it. I gave her almost everything, actually. I just wanted out. I moved to Chicago. I found a small apartment near the river and started over. I wrote Ethan letters every month. I emailed. I called. No answers. No replies. It went on for years. At some point I gave up. I figured he hated me. I assumed Sarah had poisoned his mind. I stopped trying. I threw myself into work. No new relationships, no dating. I didn't trust anyone after that. Fast forward 13 years. I'm older, quieter, lonelier. My back hurts more. My hair's gone gray. I'm still in the same Chicago apartment. I never moved. One rainy Friday night, someone knocks at my door. I open it, and it's him. Ethan. My son. 20 for now. Taller than me. Looks just like I did at his age. His eyes are bloodshot. His clothes are soaked. He's holding a backpack. He just says, "Hi, Dad." I let him in. We don't hug. We don't smile. We just sit. For a long time. Then he starts talking. Says he found some of my old letters stuffed in a box in the attic. Says his mom told him I abandoned them, that I ran off with another woman. He said she told him I didn't love him, that I had given up. He said he believed it until he read the letters. He cried reading them. He said he didn't know what to believe anymore. He asked me, "Why did you leave us?" I didn't speak. I walked to my bedroom and came back with a file. Inside were copies of the emails, the journal entries, the paternity test I eventually had done after the divorce. Ethan is mine, by the way. 99.98% match. I handed him the folder and just sat across from him while he read. He read slowly. His face changed every few seconds. Anger, sadness, confusion, betrayal. By the time he got to the part about her saying she wished he was Mark's son, he was shaking. Then he looked up, eyes full of tears, and asked me the one question that shattered what little was left of my heart. Did she ever love either of us? That's where I'm going to stop for now. He didn't speak for a long time after that question. He just sat there, looking down at the folder like it had burned his hands. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. How do you answer a question like that? I had spent over a decade trying to forget the damage she did, trying to convince myself that moving away and staying quiet was the best choice. And now my son, the boy I raised and loved, was staring at me like he didn't know what was real anymore. Finally, I said, "I don't know." He looked up again. How could she lie like that? I didn't have an answer. I think part of me was still asking the same thing. He stayed that night. Didn't say much. Just sat on the couch, flipping through those pages over and over like he was looking for something else, something that would make it all make sense. I made him some scrambled eggs in the morning. He barely touched them. He asked to borrow my phone and called someone, his girlfriend, I think. Told her he was okay and that he'd explain later. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. I confronted her before I came here, he said. I stopped moving. What did she say? He took a deep breath. She admitted some of it. Said the affair happened. Said you left because you were heartbroken. But she still says you gave up on us. She lied, I said quietly. He nodded. Yeah, I believe that now. Then he added something that hit me like a truck. She said Mark isn't just her ex-lover. He's been around. In the background. This whole time. Since I was in high school. She made me call him Uncle Mark when I was little. Said he was just her friend. I froze. He's been in your life? Yeah, Ethan said, disgusted. And I didn't even realize it until a few weeks ago. He came to my college graduation. I thought he was just one of her old friends. He bought me a damn car for my 21st birthday. That made my stomach twist. Does he think of you as his son? Ethan's jaw tightened. That's the thing. I don't know. I don't even know if she knows. She kept that part buried. But after reading your file, I can't trust anything she's told me. We sat in silence again. I felt like I was talking to a stranger, this grown man in front of me, full of rage and confusion and pain. I had missed so much. Not just birthday parties and school plays. I missed the parts where he needed a father, when he had questions or heartbreaks or moments when life didn't make sense. And then he dropped the biggest shock of all. Dad, he said, almost whispering. I think she's hiding something else. I looked at him. What do you mean? I was at her house last month. I was helping her clean out the basement. I found this old lockbox behind a shelf. When I asked about it, she freaked out. Said it was nothing. Told me to leave it alone. But she was shaking. I didn't know what to say. She called Mark that night. I heard her. She was panicked. Said, he found the box. And then I heard her say something that I can't get out of my head. What? I asked. She said, if he opens it, everything we built will fall apart. I leaned back in my chair, staring at my son. I hadn't heard from Sarah in over a decade. Hadn't spoken to her since the divorce papers were signed. I thought the worst had already happened. But now it felt like something darker was lurking under the surface. Ethan's hands were trembling. I want to go back and get that box. I shook my head. That's dangerous. You don't know what she's hiding. That's exactly why I have to find out, he said. Because if there's more she's lied about me, about you, about him, I need to know. I need to know who I am. His voice cracked on that last sentence. I saw a glimpse of the little boy I used to tuck into bed. The one who used to ask me if monsters were real. And now, here he was, 24 years old, realizing the monsters were real. And they lived in his own house. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to tell him to run, to forget it all and move on. But I knew that wouldn't work. I knew that feeling of needing the truth even if it hurts. So I told him I'd go with him. We planned to drive back to Michigan that weekend. I took time off work. He called in sick. We didn't tell anyone. He said his mom thought he was on a weekend trip with friends. What we didn't expect was what happened before we even made it to her driveway. But I'll stop here for now. We left Chicago early Saturday morning. I hadn't been back to Michigan in years. I thought I'd feel something when we crossed the state line. Nostalgia maybe. But all I felt was tension. Ethan was quiet most of the drive, staring out the window, lost in thought. I knew he was bracing himself for whatever we were about to find. We pulled up to Sarah's house just after noon. Same old siding, same cracked driveway, same wind chimes by the porch that used to drive me crazy. It was like time hadn't moved there. Ethan parked a few houses down. He didn't want her seeing the car. We waited until she left. He had tracked her phone location using a family app. She was at a salon 2 towns over. Ethan still had a spare key. Said she never changed the locks. The house was quiet when we walked in. Like walking into a memory you'd rather forget. Same furniture, same dusty bookshelf I helped build. Even the family photos were still on the wall. One of me holding Ethan at 5 years old. I felt sick. We didn't waste time. Went straight to the basement. The box was still there, behind the shelves, just like he said. It was metal, old, heavy, padlocked. Ethan pulled a small hammer and screwdriver from his backpack. We weren't gentle. After 5 minutes of prying, the lock snapped. Inside were stacks of papers. Some birth records, old photos, receipts. At first it seemed like junk. Then Ethan pulled out a manila folder with one word on it, insurance. He opened it, and everything shifted. The first thing inside was a life insurance policy. $250,000. Taken out in my name. Dated 5 months after our divorce was finalized. Beneficiary, Sarah. I stared at it like I didn't understand English. That doesn't make sense, I said. Ethan looked confused too. Why would she take out a policy on you? She shouldn't have been able to, I said. We were divorced. She wasn't my wife anymore. She had no right. Then I remembered something. My old job at the auto parts firm? I had signed paperwork for an insurance policy as part of the benefits package. Standard thing. I vaguely recalled Sarah handling that paperwork toward the end of our marriage. I hadn't thought about it in years. Then we found the second policy. This one was on Ethan. Dated 2 years ago. $100,000. Beneficiary, also Sarah. Ethan turned pale. She never told me about this, he said. That's illegal without your consent, I told him. You were over 18. She would have needed your signature. There was more. Letters. Emails. Printed screenshots. Conversations between Sarah and Mark. They were planning something. Something about inheritance. Something about getting what they deserved. There was even a reference to phase 2. That's when I realized something terrifying. The car. The one Mark gave Ethan for his birthday. It had been recalled for faulty brakes. Ethan had told me about it months ago. But Sarah insisted it was safe. Told him not to worry about it. He didn't want to make her feel bad, so he kept driving it. Suddenly, the whole picture changed. She was trying to. I couldn't even finish the sentence. Ethan backed away from the box like it had teeth. We took photos of everything. Every document, every letter, every folder. I backed it all up onto a USB drive. Then we locked the box again and shoved it back where we found it. We left quietly. Sarah never saw us. That night, back at my apartment in Chicago, Ethan couldn't sleep. Neither could I. We sat up going over everything. Every lie. Every twisted scheme. Then around 2 a.m., Ethan's phone buzzed. It was Sarah. Just one text. Did you go into the basement? He didn't answer. We turned the phone off. I told him to stay with me for a while. He agreed. The next morning, my doorbell rang. It wasn't Sarah. It was someone I hadn't seen in years. Mark. He looked older, grayer, wearing a fake smile and sunglasses. Robert, he said. Mind if I come in? I said no. He looked past me and saw Ethan behind me. I think we all need to talk, he said. I shut the door in his face. He stood there for a minute, then walked away. 5 minutes later, a black SUV that had been parked down the block pulled away too. That's when we knew. We weren't just dealing with lies anymore. We were in danger. We didn't sleep for days after that. Every time we heard footsteps in the hallway, every car door slamming outside, our hearts jumped. Ethan barely left the apartment. I started carrying my old baseball bat again, like it would protect us from whatever Sarah and Mark were capable of. The paranoia was real, and for the first time since the divorce, I wasn't just angry, I was afraid. Ethan started looking into legal options. He found out that in Michigan, it's technically possible to take out an insurance policy on someone without their direct consent if you claim insurable interest and falsify certain forms. Turns out, Sarah knew just enough about me and still had enough old info from our past life together to do exactly that. But proving malicious intent would take more than a policy. We needed to expose them. I reached out to one of Sarah's former coworkers, Ms. Darlene, who used to teach with her at the high school. She had retired years ago and moved to Lansing, but she remembered me. I told her the basics. Not everything, just enough to raise eyebrows. At first, she was hesitant. Then she said something that changed the game. You know, I always thought it was strange how quickly Mark moved in after you left. What do you mean moved in? He practically lived there a few months after the divorce. People said they were together, but she denied it. Swore he was just helping her get back on her feet. That was enough for us. We took everything, the policies, the screenshots, the emails, the info from Ms. Darlene, and scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. The lawyer told us to tread carefully. Said there was a case here, but it would need more exposure. So Ethan did something I didn't expect. He called a family meeting at Sarah's house. He invited her, Mark, and 2 of her sisters, his aunts. Said it was about clearing the air. They all agreed. I didn't want to go. Every part of me screamed to stay away. But Ethan said he needed me there. So I went. That Sunday, we walked into the lion's den. Sarah greeted us like it was Thanksgiving dinner. Smiling, warm, fake as ever. Mark was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, looking smug. Her sisters, Lisa and Terry, were confused but curious. Ethan stood in the center of the living room, holding the manila folder like it was a bomb. He didn't ease into it. Mom, he said, why did you lie to me about Dad? The room went still. Sarah blinked. I didn't lie. You told me he left us. That he abandoned me. That he cheated. That he didn't care. Her smile faltered. That's what I believed. No, it's what you wanted me to believe. So you could rewrite the story. So you didn't have to admit what you did. She turned red. Ethan, let's not do this in front of everyone. He dropped the folder on the table. Photos spilled out. The insurance policies. The emails. The journal excerpts. The receipts. Everything. Terry gasped. Lisa leaned in and started reading. Mark stood up. This is an invasion of privacy. Ethan looked at him dead in the eyes. You gave me a car with faulty brakes. You signed off on a policy in my name. You've been in the shadows manipulating my life since I was a child. You don't get to talk about privacy. Sarah grabbed the folder and started stuffing everything back inside. You don't understand what you're doing, she said, trembling. No, you don't, Ethan snapped. You lied to me. You stole my letters. You tried to erase Dad from my life. And for what? Money? Control? Some fantasy with this guy. Lisa stood up. Is this true, Sarah? Sarah opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Then, tears. The fake kind at first, like she was searching for sympathy. Then the truth came spilling out. I was scared, she cried. Robert always worked, always distant. Mark was there for me. I thought he loved me. I thought we could build something better. But I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You took out a policy on me, Ethan said. That's not fear. That's premeditated. Mark finally spoke up. You're twisting everything. You're acting like we're criminals. Terry walked over and slapped the folder into his chest. You are. Sarah collapsed onto the couch. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I didn't want to lose everything. Ethan looked at her like she was a stranger. You already did. The room exploded after that. Lisa and Terry tore into her. Mark tried to defend himself, but no one was listening. Ethan and I walked out in the middle of the shouting match. We didn't look back. That night, Sarah tried calling. Ethan didn't answer. She left a voicemail sobbing, begging for forgiveness, blaming Mark, blaming stress, blaming the past. Then she texted me. Just one sentence. Did I ever mean anything to you? I deleted it. The fallout was fast. Ethan reported the insurance fraud. The lawyer took it from there. We haven't heard from Mark since. Last I heard, he left town. Sarah's still in Grand Rapids, but alone. Her sisters don't speak to her. Most of her friends stopped returning calls. Ethan's healing, slowly. He's in therapy. He's learning how to rebuild what was stolen from him. We're closer now than we've ever been. We talk daily. Sometimes we don't even mention her. As for me, I've got peace. It took years of silence, heartbreak, lies, and one final confrontation to get it. But I have it now. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe we'll always carry this weight. Maybe one day we'll both let it go completely. But I know this. The truth always comes out. Sarah lost everything she tried to control. Ethan found the truth, and with it, found his real father again. I walked away from my past, but this time, not alone. We didn't just survive her lies, we exposed them. And I finally stopped asking if she ever loved us. Because the answer doesn't matter anymore. We have each other. That's enough.